Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this special coverage of the African tour of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. As the African tour reached its last leg in Mozambique today, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi just a few minutes ago had a press conference with his Mozambique counterpart, Chakwera, and it was the summit between the two presidents that tackled a number of issues of mutual concern, whether regional or international. And there are a lot to speak about regarding the Egyptian-African relations in general, and the three legs of the president in specific, which took him to Angola, Zambia, and last but not least, Mozambique. To shed more light on this, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone Her Excellency Ambassador Mona Omar, former Assistant Foreign Minister for Foreign Affairs. A very good afternoon, Ambassador Omar.
Good afternoon to you.
And let's start immediately with the press conference which just took place a few minutes ago. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, of course, hailed the historic ties that bind Egypt and Mozambique, among, of course, other African brotherly nations. But let me know about the importance of boosting particularly economic trade and investment ties with our African allies, and also to cooperate closely in the fields of security and stability.
Actually, you touched the main and important issues that President al-Sisi is dealing with in all his visits and all his talks. So when he met with his counterpart, President Nyusi, in Mozambique, these were the files that he talked about. The first one is the economic file, and he talked a lot about the experience of Egypt in creating a very good network of new cities, of the transport facilities and all of this. And he said that the Egyptian companies are ready to transfer all of this experience to Mozambique.
Yes.
Which is really very, very good, because Mozambique also is a rich country, but they lack a lot of the infrastructure needs. So President al-Sisi is trying to open a market for the Egyptian companies everywhere in Africa, and this is very much appreciated. It is a win-win formula that will really create prosperity for both nations, for Egypt and also for Mozambique. He talked about boosting the trade ties that exist already between Egypt and Mozambique, though it is not the level of the trade volume that we want. So we really want to increase this volume of trade. The other files are the peace and security, and Mozambique has a problem also of terrorism that it is facing on its borders. So they were very interested in listening to the Egyptian experience in eliminating terrorism, not only based on the security tools or ways, but by eliminating the fanatism. And President al-Sisi offered Al-Azhar to play a role with the Muslim clerks, because they have in Mozambique a Muslim community. So he offered that they can really give them training courses about how to go for eliminating the fanatism. He also had an important statement about the link between the development and the terrorism. That
fighting terrorism with development.
Yes, I think this was also a very good thing.
Ambassador Omar, you touched upon a very important issue, which is fighting terrorism via many tools, many means. And now the whole world learned the lesson, unfortunately, the hard way, that the terrorism is a global phenomenon, directed to a certain people or a certain area, but it's a global phenomenon. Even before this important African tour by the president received here in Egypt just also a few days ago Mauritania's president, His Excellency, of course, Mohammed Wald Sheikh Ghazawi, and they spoke also about terrorism in the Sahel area. Now it's terrorism in Mozambique, in many other African countries. How do you see fighting terrorism with, as we said, development rather than the security region, and in the same time to have this phrase repeated many times, joint Arab action, the importance of having joint Arab action among all African states to reach this goal, defeating terrorism and in the same time meeting the aspirations of all African peoples?
Actually, you touched an important issue, which is the Afro-Arab cooperation. So with the Arab investment or the Arab financing and the Egyptian experience, and we can have the African countries as a recipient for all of this at the same time, eliminating poverty through creating new ways of development, through the how do you call it, the value added that we create for all the African resources. I think this is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
Also, the president tackled the struggles that are taking place, unfortunately, these days, whether in the African continent, of course, topping the list, the Sudanese conflict, and even they also discussed the situation in Europe, the Ukrainian-Russian struggle, which had its negative impacts on the whole world, of course, but on Africa in specific, and highlighting the importance of reaching a peaceful settlement or returning to dialogue, to call for dialogue and to a political peaceful settlement far from the conflicts on the ground, which really claimed thousands of lives.
Yeah, I would like really to add to what you said rightly, that the African continent is presenting a new initiative, and Egypt is a part of this initiative, and they are supposed to be moving by the middle of this month towards Russia and Ukraine to really present this new initiative that I hope will make some difference in this war.
Mm-hmm. And this is going to have its fruitful impacts on us. I mean, when it comes to the supply, the crisis of the supply chain, the food crisis, the energy crisis, this is national security of each country, if you agree with me on that.
I do agree completely on that, and we are all suffering from the impact of this war, and before that from COVID, and these two calamities really touched every and each country in Africa. So I hope that with these positive moves, new moves, things can change, either on the economic side or on the political side.
Yep. One final question, Ambassador Omar, regarding the meetings of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, which took place on the sidelines of the COMESA summit. He had important meetings with his Kenyan counterpart, with his Malawi counterpart, taking into consideration that these summits or these gatherings are very important to be a chance for meeting the counterparts of the president and tackle a number of issues of mutual concern, as well as ways to boost mutual ties in all domains. If you please, I'd like to shed more light on the importance of those meetings which took place, as I said, on the sidelines of the COMESA summit.
Actually, what we call the summit diplomacy is considered one of the most efficient kinds of diplomacy in the world. And this is what President El-Sisi is practicing since he arrived. And we are very happy and proud of this, because either in his multilateral meetings or bilateral meetings, he has such a big exposure, talking about the problems of Africa, talking about the capabilities that can be presented from the Egyptian side to our sister countries in Africa.
Yeah.
He's meeting with the Kenyan president. The Kenyan president is newly elected. And it was a very important meeting because Kenya, as you know, is one of the biggest importers from us here in Egypt. They have one of the highest trade volumes with Egypt within the COMESA.
Yeah.
Also, Kenya is considered one of the important players on the African scene politically.
Sure.
It is one of the Nile Basin countries. So when President El-Sisi meets his counterpart, also he is very keen on talking about the problem of the water, our problem about the scarcity of water, and how are we dealing with it, and the problem of the dam, the Ethiopian dam.
Yeah.
So he is also creating an understanding within his counterparts and the other African countries for the Egyptian position, and this is very important.
We are building on what we have achieved in the past few years. Since President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi occupied the position, we are back to Africa. And since we occupied the presidency of the African Union in 2019, we are back in full capacity, as we say, and to have our initiatives like silencing the guns, like developing the infrastructure, like having this dream of the railway route between Egypt, between Cairo and Cape Town. All these issues, I think they are not going to be forgotten, and they are not dreams anymore.
No, they will
it can
never
be implemented
forgotten.
on the ground, practically, I mean.
These initiatives are AU initiatives, the one about silencing the guns and also creating the new African trade area. This is also a very important one. The Cairo-Cape road, it has been a project on our file since about 25 years ago. So really reviving all of these is very important. And also I wanted to signal that the president in his speech, if you remember in COMESA, he said that we are going to apply to be members of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union. So this is also a piece of news that we need to emphasize upon.
Sure. As usual, you are an added value to our programs, Ambassador Mona Omar. Thank you very much for your input and have a very good day.